In the mid-19th century, a particular phrase came out called "politics make strange bedfellows." Sounds interesting, but what does it really mean? It means that political alliance in a common cause may bring together those of widely differing views. Let me give you an example. In the Middle East, there has been a really big beef between Israel and Saudi Arabia, or even Qatar. But for whatever reason, there is some business going on between Saudi Arabia and Israel, although they are historical religious enemies. Why? Because politics make strange bedfellows. Also, what about black people and white people in America? That's probably one of the biggest rivalries around the world. The African American community versus white people, because white people enslaved blacks and white people put blacks in the position that they are today. But why is it that white conservatives, some of them, are on the side of blacks? Politics make strange bedfellows. Rewind! Kamala Harris might become president. We hope that she doesn't, but she might become president. And she's doing it with her universal appeal. You see, Joe Biden is an old white guy, but Kamala Harris is younger. She can play the black card one day and the Indian card another day. Just a few days ago, a brother of mine here on YouTube called Afro Think Tank was calling me out because, well, I don't think Kamala Harris is black. Now, I never said she wasn't black. I said that she wasn't African American, but that's okay. That's the reality, all right? And I'm not the only person that's offended, because the Indian community is offended at Kamala Harris. You see, Kamala Harris can be black, and then at some points, she can be Indian.
It is my true, distinct pleasure to introduce the first senator, and I'm not going to say this, the first senator of Indian American heritage in the history of U.S. Senate.
So it's been a really long week, and I'm really glad to be here. But I want to thank you, and my Chitti is here, my mother's youngest sister, Chinni Mahalakshmi Subhash is here, and I want to thank her. She flew in from Toronto to be with us this evening. Please, Chitti, will you wave?
But not all Indians see it this way.
All right. Vivek, I want to give you a chance to react to that. No doubt it's going to get attention. It already is.
Yeah, so look, on a very personal level, my parents were immigrants to this country, legal immigrants from southern India. Very same part of India that her mother also immigrated from. I think it's a hard fact, Martha, it's just a fact, whether you like it or not, that many Indian Americans in the United States are indeed somewhat offended by the way Kamala has suddenly cast aside the Indian American side of her identity. She leaned into it when she ran for office in California. Big Asian American and Indian American population. So she wore that when it was convenient. She's wearing a different identity now when it's politically convenient on a national stage. Personally, I don't think we should be relying on these ethnic identities at all. We're actually American. And the problem is when you're Kamala Harris and you actually do lean into your identity politics, then you open the door to that type of criticism. But if you ask me, that shouldn't be how this election is decided one way or another. It should be decided on our own identity as Americans and what our vision is for the future of the country. And the number one thing missing in Kamala Harris's candidacy is that she lacks that vision for the country. That's what we got to focus on.
Okay. Very interesting to hear from you and to hear your call for a reset in your party.
Even Trump has discussed this matter.
So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always identified as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn, and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you believe that
I think somebody should look into that, too, when you ask continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some Republicans have said?
I really don't know. Could be. There are some, and there are plenty. I know this lady right over there Harris is a fantastic person.
Now, let me kind of get back to what I was talking about. Politics makes strange bedfellows. At the same time that white conservatives historically were telling blacks to pull themselves up from their bootstraps and, stop killing your own people and get off welfare, well, blacks started doing some things for themselves. People like Yvette Carnell and then Tariq Nasheed on blacks getting reparations through lineage. It started with #ADOS and #FBA. And Ann Coulter, who is on the right, came out with some incredible language to describe what's really going on in the minds of white conservatives.
Well, I write about this a little bit in my book, Mugged, about racial demagoguery, and also in Adios America about immigration. And that is, the important point he should have made is that the entire purpose of affirmative action, set-asides, civil rights laws that limit constitutional rights to freedom of contract, freedom of association, all of that was to make up for the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow. So unless these benefits are going to, roughly defined, foundational black Americans, the descendants of American slaves, you've taken away the whole purpose of this. And that is exactly what's happened once we got this huge load of immigrants. Now, a Thai who arrived on Wednesday will get an advantage applying to college, applying to corporations over a heterosexual white male in particular. That's the biggest hate group. But any white American. And all of the civil rights laws have been, and affirmative action and so on, have been twisted into just anti-white hatred and open, egregious discrimination. So to make the point that Kamala isn't a foundational black American, I'm always pointing out to black people, hey, have you noticed Indians are getting all the good diversity jobs? What did we do to Indians? We didn't enslave them. I mean, most of these immigrants coming in, 90% of legal immigrants are from the third world. And mostly we've just run around saving them from earthquakes and tornadoes and coups and starvation. They owe us. We don't owe them. But to switch from the concept of integration and civil rights for black Americans to this BS-y diversity, it's nothing but discrimination against white people. And that point should be made not just to, as I think Trump is always thinking, oh, he's going to win the black vote. He's not going to win the black vote. You ought to do things because they're the right thing to do, not because this is an appeal to black people, like releasing criminals. He thinks he's going to get the black vote by being soft on crime. Anyway, not only to point out to black Americans that their history is being stolen by immigrants, but to remind white Americans that this whole diversity thing is just discrimination against them. You still want to vote for the Democrats?
You see, let me kind of break this down. Ann Coulter has just revealed what white people are really thinking. You see, when they see Kamala Harris, they also see a threat to them in the country, both politically and economically. They see it as a big issue to white America. White heterosexual men are being treated like criminals, according to her. And also, they are seeing the migrant crisis affect a lot of their cities, towns, and employment opportunities. And white people are shook. In this country, which they dominate, they find that their numbers are getting low. So now they're thinking, wait a minute, we've been against the blacks the whole time, but if there's anybody who deserves reparations or cash payments, let's give it to the blacks that helped us build America. Why are we giving it to these other immigrants who have not helped us do anything, who's going to replace both us, the whites, and the blacks? And now we have an aha moment. Let's go back to that saying, politics make strange bedfellows. You would never think that white conservatives and blacks would ever be on the same page. And for the most part, they won't. But white conservatives and blacks both feel a threat that immigration is going to erase not only them, but also our history too. We are already seeing it right now with Kamala Harris. Although we have so many people saying that she's a black woman, that doesn't want to give reparations to her community, that sees all Americans the same. Although she went to an HBCU, She can cosplay and pretend to be Indian at one point and African American at another point. People like Kamala Harris don't have any sympathy for blacks, African Americans, nor whites. You see, because Kamala Harris wants immigration to really pop off in America. Remember, she's with Joe Biden. And now white Americans and African Americans have their backs against the wall. And this is the issue here. Now you have some of the people in the pro-black community that want to latch on to the fact that all of our brothers and sisters who are black love us. And it's true that some of them do. It's true that many of them are favorable to us. But Kamala Harris is not one of them, in my opinion. Because if she did love you so much, why does she want to replace you? Why does she have New York City and Chicago looking like that, affecting the west side of Chicago, the south side of Chicago, Harlem, where blacks are at, some parts of Queens, where many African Americans are at? Oh, because she doesn't think with a black mind, therefore she only looks black, which is a big difference, and I'm gonna get into that a lot later. But clearly, to be able to go between the Indians and then the African Americans to get what she wants to ultimately replace the people that helped her the most, which were black Americans. But white conservatives are giving her the wake-up call. And it's interesting that Ann Coulter uses the phrase #FBA are foundational black Americans. Now white conservatives are using that talking point. Why? Politics makes strange bedfellows. They're gonna start latching on to that, saying, hey, we need to work with the African American community. It's our only hope to protect you and us. Hey, we don't really like you guys maybe, or we don't really want to be by you guys. Hey, you and us are a part of American history like no one else. Together, we created this great country to what it is today. So us, both of us are going to be replaced. We need to work together, not that we like each other, but because politics makes strange bedfellows. So guys, what do you think? It's your boy O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of The Celebrity Junk. I appreciate you for all that you do. Subscribe, hit the bell. We're out.